Hello everyone, welcome back to the workshop. So in this video we're going to take and talk about designing for the negative spaces. So in this example I have what is an outline, if you will, of a fireplace crane or potential fireplace crane. Now this is crudely drawn, just doing this quick and on the fly, but I think it will help illustrate some of my points. So you could make a fairly simple fireplace crane, something like this, put some twists in it, and that would be good enough for most customers and things of the like there. But there are some more discerning customers that maybe would like to take and see a little bit more decorative ironwork go on and not just something so simplistic. Well, in which case, then we come into taking and designing scroll work for the interior of this here fireplace frame. So we could just make some basic scrolls, some nice branching scrolls, something like that. And that would be good enough, and that would definitely jazz this piece up. Now, granted, I have not taken and drew these as straight as they could be, but you get the theme or you get the point. One thing that I want to take and point out in this video is to not look at the scroll work itself, but this is where the point of the video of designing for the negative spaces come into play. What story is the space in between each one of the scrolls telling? Because you can look at this in two different ways. You can look at this as a positive or a negative, and that's not an emotional feeling. It's literally a positive or a negative. So it's either the positive of something or the negative depression of something, of two halves of a whole three-dimensional space. Now, as we're designing work and as I design my work here, this is very important to me. And the reason why is, let's say this scroll work flows pretty good, but let's say I want to add, I don't know, some leaf in there or some droopy bit there. That's not going to look very good or attractive. Why doesn't that look very good and attractive? Usually the reason why is look at the negative space that it takes up. This here, this little negative space, has been cut off. So it almost isolates this area out and it looks odd. It just looks off. Take that away. Take that little bit away. And now we're back to our original negative space. It looks good. But now let's say if I were to come off this and give a little bit of a back curl like that. Our negative space, the integrity of our negative space has been kept intact. So therefore it looks better. It looks better in this direction, although not 100% better, but it does in generally look better. Now if I add this same motif to the rest of the piece, again preserving the negative space, it will look a lot better. So this is important in your design work when you're designing things. I do not claim to be the best drawer in the world, but this is what I see in my head when I'm creating stuff, is how does this impact or how does this work with the negative space that I have at hand. And you just keep doodling, get yourself a piece of soapstone, and keep applying elements before you maybe start on a creative project to a piece of metal like this, and kind of just keep playing with it until you get something that really looks unique or looks like it really fits that area or that negative space very well. I'm going to give you one last little example before I go here. I'm going to wipe this off here with a bit of cloth. I'm going to clean that up. Get that cleaned off of there really good. Good. And hopefully this will show up now. So now I'm going to give you an example of what I mean by negative space in a little more detail. If I draw two boxes, and in those boxes I draw, say, a simple leaf. So there's that leaf, okay? And in this box I'm going to go ahead and color in the leaf, but I'm going to leave the rest hollow. So the leaf, the part that's colored in, is the positive, as where the part that is not colored in is the negative space. Say this was in a motif along a railing or something like that. There you go. So this is a positive, and then the negative space is what you see around it. Likewise, I'm going to draw another box right next side it. We'll come over here. Draw another really ugly leaf. It's kind of hard to draw with the camera in the way, but this time I'm going to shade out everything but the leaf. So in your ironwork, hopefully you guys can tell this now. Hopefully there's enough shadow. I don't know if it's better without shadow or what going on there. See if that'll help. Nope, doesn't really help. Anyways, hopefully you guys can see this just fine. Now, hopefully you can see the differences between the negative space. It's still basically the same leaf form. Obviously I didn't draw this exactly like this, but I think you get the point. This is the point of those lights and shadows, designing for negative space. This is just as valid as a motif in something as what this is, but they don't look good together. So if you do something like this and you put something like this, you put a positive right next to a negative, it all blends together and goes blah. So if you're trying to highlight the negative space and make the negative space a positive space, then you need to do that, not make it all in the same plane. So the same thing with the positive space. If you're trying to make a positive space, your item that's your central focus, and again play off the negative space, leave that as such. Do not make it again in the negative sense. So you don't want to take and make everything in the same plane of view. You want to play off highlights and shadows. That's the same thing when it comes down to texture, surface texture on steel and highlighting things. I've shown that a bunch of times on the channel. Just something as simple, just one little polished edge or one little facet on a piece of steel will really change the entire view and the entire look of the actual material itself. As where if you just left it flat and plain and dull and boring, it just looks like a bar of steel. But if you add a little bit of glint to one of the edges, now all of a sudden it's starting to stick off. It's starting to turn into a three-dimensional object. So whenever you're designing artist work of any kind, you're designing a grill, you're designing fireplace cranes, you're designing something like that, think about not just the item that's being forged, like the fire poker with the leaf, but what is that leaf doing, and kind of look through that leaf, peer through it and see the outline of the leaf and how all that plays together. And then you will get how to do scrolls, and a lot of other type of design work will just become looking a lot better. You'll be able to pick up transition line a lot easier. So, excuse the door banging in the background. It's a blustery day here in Ohio, so please forgive that. Can't make the weather. I'll give you one last little example here before I leave. Here is a scroll. If you look at this scroll, it can be dainty and it can be delicate, but if I were to take and add an end like that, now it's a much bigger scroll. Now I can take and, if I shade all that in to make it look like more of a scroll that you would see, like a snub end scroll, now it's thick, right? And the negative space around it looks different than as if when it was just the basic scroll without all the other stuff, the negative space felt wider open. It felt more light and elegant, things like that. Not that you can't combine these elements, but they need to be kept in balance whenever you're doing design work. So anyways, that's it for today. Thank you so much for watching this video. I'll leave some videos on the screen coming up here soon of the different projects that I've been working on with using scrolls, with negative space and things like that, and talking more in detail in forging. If you want to check those out, I greatly appreciate the watch time. And if you made it in this far in the video, thank you so much for watching, and thank you for being a super fan. So anyways, that's it. God bless you, and we'll catch you on the next one. Thanks for watching.